It's just past 1 a.m. in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Flight 447 from Rio de Janeiro to Paris cruises at 35,000 feet over the vast, dark waters below. Inside the cockpit, faint lights illuminate the serene faces of the pilots. The captain, Marc Dubois, 58 years old, and a seasoned veteran with over 11,000 hours of flight experience, listens to opera through his headphones. At the controls is First Officer Pierre-Cedric Bonin, a 32-year-old with about 2,000 hours of flight time. He glances at the instrument panel as he listens to music shared by the captain. They could not imagine that in just a few hours, their actions, or lack of them, would decide the fate of the 228 souls on board. May 31, 2009. At Galeão International Airport in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, 216 passengers and 12 crew members board Air France Flight 447, a state-of-the-art Airbus A330, bound for Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. The Airbus A330 was known for its impeccable safety record. Since its introduction in 1994, it had never been involved in a fatal passenger crash. The advanced systems on board gave pilots unprecedented control and reliability. In the cockpit that night, the crew consisted of Captain Dubois, First Officer Bonin, and Relief First Officer David Robert, 37 years old. The relief pilot would take over mid-flight so the captain could rest, as required by regulations. At 10:25 p.m., the Airbus A330 lifted off smoothly, beginning its long 10-hour journey across the Atlantic. By 1:30 a.m., Flight 447 had reached its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. But ahead lay the Intertropical Convergence Zone, a region notorious for thunderstorms. First Officer Bonin began using the weather radar to monitor storm activity. Inside the cockpit, the pilots discussed whether to climb higher to avoid the turbulence. But the aircraft was already near its maximum altitude for its current weight. At 2:10 a.m., disaster struck. The autopilot and autothrust systems disconnected without warning. Bonin, now at the controls, reacted by pulling back on the side stick, causing the aircraft to climb. This was a critical mistake. At high altitudes, air density is low, and the aircraft's margin between safe speeds, both too fast and too slow, is razor thin. Multiple alarms blared in the cockpit, including the stall warning, a clear indication that the plane's angle of attack was too high, and it was losing lift. Despite this, Bonin kept pulling back on the controls, further worsening the situation. Relief First Officer Robert joined the cockpit, but failed to recognize the severity of the situation. The two officers seemed confused and overwhelmed. Instead of pushing the nose down to regain airspeed, Bonin continued to pull back, keeping the aircraft in a stall. At 2:13 a.m., Captain Dubois returned to the cockpit. Chaos greeted him, alarms blaring, the aircraft in a deep stall, and his co-pilots visibly panicked. But by then, it was too late. The aircraft was plummeting toward the ocean at a staggering rate of 10,000 feet per minute. At 2:14 a.m., Flight 447 impacted the Atlantic Ocean at over 200 kilometers per hour. All 228 passengers and crew perished instantly. For days, rescue teams searched the vast ocean. Debris and bodies were eventually recovered, but the exact cause of the crash remained a mystery. The flight data and cockpit voice recorders lay over 4,000 meters deep, unreachable for years. In 2011, after extensive efforts, the black boxes were finally retrieved. Their recordings revealed a devastating truth: human error,